It's been 3 years since that fateful night, but I remember it vividly, the night my life changed forever. It was late, and I was driving my old comely car down a quiet road. I wasn't drunk or distracted, but my mind was somewhere else entirely. I had just broken up with my girlfriend, a woman I'd shared so many memories with, and the sadness weighed on me like a heavy fog. Lost in thought, I didn't notice the young woman on the SH scooter about to cross the road. By the time I heard the scream, it was too late. I slammed on the brakes, but the car didn't stop in time. The collision threw her off her bike, and she landed face down on the pavement. Blood was everywhere. Panicked, I jumped out and called for help, but the paramedics couldn't save her. She passed away at the hospital that same night. I'll never forget her face, so young, so full of life, and the guilt that consumed me afterward. I apologized to her family, offered compensation, and accepted their anger and hatred. But no amount of penance could erase the image of her lifeless body or the feeling that I'd taken something irreplaceable. At night, her face would appear in my dreams, twisted in sorrow and anger, silently accusing me. Each morning, I woke up feeling a little more broken. Over time, the weight of guilt began to shape my life. I avoided the road where the accident had happened, never wanting to relive that moment. I buried myself in work, isolating myself from friends and family. Each smile I forced felt hollow, a mask to hide the torment within. Therapy sessions offered some relief, but I could never bring myself to talk about the accident in detail. The memory was too raw, too painful to confront directly. Years passed, and life went on, though the memory of that night never truly left me. In August of this year, I decided to visit Sapa, hoping the mountains and fresh air might bring me some peace. It was there, at Sun World, that I met her. Well, not her, but a woman who looked startlingly similar to the girl I had killed. She had an easy smile and an infectious laugh, and before I knew it, we were talking like old friends. "Thank you for helping me with this," she said, handing me a small bag. "It's rare to meet someone so kind." "It's no problem," I replied, trying to hide how unnerved I felt. "Are you from around here?" "No, just visiting," she said with a smile. "But this place has a way of drawing you in, doesn't it?" By the end of the day, I had her phone number. Over the following weeks, we went on a few dates. She was kind, warm, and everything I thought I didn't deserve after what I'd done. We laughed over meals, shared stories of our pasts, and for the first time in years, I felt a flicker of happiness. One evening, I picked her up to go see a movie. She'd asked me to wait for her outside a salon where she was getting her hair done. When she walked out, my heart skipped a beat, not from attraction, but from fear. She was wearing a black dress and her hair was down, framing her face in a way that made her look eerily like the girl from that night. "Wow," I stammered, trying to steady my voice. "You look amazing." "Thank you," she said, her tone unusually soft. "Shall we go?" I told myself it was a coincidence, that I was overthinking things. We drove to the cinema, and she chatted away happily, putting me at ease. But on the way back, her demeanor changed. She sat silently, her posture rigid, and her hands rested unnaturally still on her lap. Her eyes, wide and unblinking, stared straight ahead. "Is everything okay?" I asked, glancing at her briefly. "You're really quiet." She didn't respond. Her silence was unnerving. At one point, I glanced in the direction she was staring, expecting to see something outside the window, but there was nothing there. When I looked back at her, she was the same, silent, statue-like. As we neared her drop-off point, she suddenly asked me to stop by an alley. "Can you pull over here?" she said, her voice calm but cold. "Here?" I asked, hesitating. "Are you sure it's safe?" "Just walk me inside," she said. "It'll only take a minute." Reluctantly, I agreed, but as she grabbed my wrist to lead me, her hand felt icy, like it had been submerged in freezing water. "Your hand," I said, startled. "It's freezing." She didn't reply, only tightening her grip. That's when I panicked. The cold seemed to seep into my bones, and a wave of unease swept over me. I wrenched my hand free, mumbled an excuse, and bolted back to my car. As I sped away, my rearview mirror caught a glimpse of her standing there, motionless, her eyes following me as I disappeared into the night. That night, I dreamt of her, or rather the girl I'd killed. In the dream, she came to my door, her face bloodied and broken, just as it had been on that tragic night. She didn't speak, only stared at me with hollow eyes. When I woke up, I was drenched in sweat, the image of her haunting me. I tried to contact the woman I had been seeing, but she never replied. I even asked around and found out she was still living her life as usual. Strangely, no one had ever seen her in that black dress except me. It was as if the universe was playing a cruel joke on me, blending the past and present into one horrifying experience. I spent weeks trying to make sense of it all. Was it guilt manifesting into paranoia? Or was something more sinister at play? One evening, I returned to the alley where she'd asked me to stop. It was eerily quiet, the kind of silence that presses against your ears. As I stood there, the air grew cold, and I could have sworn I heard a faint whisper, my name, carried on the wind. I ran from the alley, my heart pounding, vowing never to return. A few nights later, I was home alone when a knock came at the door. It was past midnight, and the sound sent chills down my spine. Hesitating, I approached the door and peered through the peephole. No one was there. Yet the knocking continued, growing louder and more insistent. Summoning courage, I opened the door. The hallway was empty, but as I turned back, I caught a fleeting glimpse of her reflection in the mirror behind me, bloody, broken, and staring straight into my soul. The days that followed were a blur of unease and dread. Each shadow seemed darker, every noise amplified by my paranoia. I started avoiding mirrors, afraid of what I might see. My phone rang one evening, displaying an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Hello," I said cautiously. The voice on the other end was faint but unmistakable. "You can't run from me." The call ended abruptly, leaving me trembling. I checked the call log, but there was no record of the call ever happening. That night, I barricaded myself in my room, my mind racing with fear and confusion. To this day, I don't know if what I saw was real or a manifestation of my guilt. But one thing is certain, some things, no matter how much time passes, never truly leave you. They linger, like shadows in the corners of your mind, waiting for the right moment to remind you of what you've done. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more chilling tales, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. I'll see you in the next story.